Man, the Trump nominees are shrouded in actual deviancy. But that makes sense because that's who Trump is as well. So it makes sense. When Linda McMahon's name got picked for the Secretary of Education, the things coming out about her family definitely got put on blast. But this is an article from CNN and is talking about the ring boys that brought allegations against the McMahon family and the WWE. Let's get into this article. A recent lawsuit alleges Linda McMahon, who President-elect Donald Trump tapped to lead the Department of Education, knowingly enabled the actual exploitation of children by a World Wrestling Entertainment WWE employee as early as the 1980s, allegations she denies. McMahon is the former CEO of the WWE, which she co-founded with her husband, Vince. As the head of WWE, Linda McMahon oversaw its transformation from the wrestling entertainment company into a publicly traded media empire. She stepped down in 2009 to run for Senate, but she lost in Connecticut in 2010 and 2012. As McMahon, who co-chairs Trump's transition team, vies to be confirmed as education secretary, recent lawsuits raises questions about her care for children's safety at the WWE. The suit alleges McMahon, her husband, the WWE, and TKO Group Holdings, the league's parent company, knowingly allowed employee Melvin Phillips Jr. to use his position as ringside announcer to actually exploit children. The filing alleges Phillips would recruit children to work as the ring boys, helping him set up and take down wrestling rings at the WWE events. However, the job was a guise for actually exploiting the children, which Phillips would do even in front of wrestlers and executives in the locker room, the lawsuit alleges. He also would often film his actual abuse, according to the filing. The suit was filed in October in Baltimore County, Maryland, on behalf of 5 John Does who say they were between the ages of 13 to 15 when Phillips met and recruited them to work as ring boys. Each of them say they suffered mental and emotional abuse as a result of the alleged abuse. Phillips lured and manipulated the young boys with promises of meeting famous wrestlers and attending the highly popular wrestling shows, experiences that were otherwise unattainable for these kids, the lawsuit alleges. The McMahons, WWE, and TKO Holdings allowed Phillips and others to engage in and foster the WWE's rampant culture of SA. The lawsuit claims that the McMahons were negligent as employers and failed to protect the plaintiffs, who are demanding more than $30,000 in damages. Just $30,000? Phillips worked for the WWE in the 70s, 80s, and 90s as a prominent ringside announcer and crew chief. Both Linda and Vince McMahon were aware of Phillips' abuse, the lawsuit alleges. Vince McMahon admitted that he and Linda were aware as early as the early to mid-1980s that Phillips had a peculiar and unnatural interest in young boys, according to the filing. Laura Bravetti, an attorney for Linda McMahon, called the allegations false. This civil lawsuit, based upon 30-plus-year-old allegations, is filled with scurrilous lies, exaggerations, and misrepresentations regarding Linda McMahon. Ms. McMahon will vigorously defend against this baseless lawsuit and without doubt ultimately succeed. Bravetti also told CNN that Linda and Vince McMahon are separated and have been apart for some time. Jessica Rosenberg, an attorney for Vince McMahon, did not respond to CNN's request for comment for this story. Rosenberg said in a previous statement that the lawsuit's allegations are false. Now, Vince McMahon is going through his own stuff because he has allegations against him, and many of these allegations have been going back for decades. Vince McMahon, the WWE, Linda McMahon, they are all shrouded in this actual deviancy, but like I said earlier, that matches the whole Trump orbit as well. We already know that Trump isn't too concerned about consent and stuff, and who he surrounds himself with seem to be on the same page. This article came out January 2023. There is a more recent lawsuit with Janelle Grant, and I'll get to that in a moment. But this one, WWE's Vince McMahon settles with ex-employee who accused him of grape. WWE Executive Chairman Vince McMahon has agreed to another multi-million-dollar legal settlement with a former female employee of the wrestling organization, according to a Wall Street Journal, which cited several anonymous sources familiar with the agreement. The Journal reported Thursday that McMahon completed a settlement last month with Rita Chatterton, his first female referee, who accused him of raping her in 1986. She demanded over $11 million in damages for the alleged grape, per a November letter provided to the Journal. However, a single unnamed source told the Journal that she agreed to a lesser amount in the millions of dollars, although the exact amount of the settlement is unclear. Mr. McMahon denies and has always denied raping Ms. Chatterton, and he settled the case solely to avoid the cost of litigation, said Jerry McDevitt, a lawyer for McMahon, told the Journal. He didn't immediately respond to CNN's request for a comment. So let's talk about this situation with Janelle Grant. So she agreed to pause her lawsuit because the federal investigation was coming. And she did, she agreed. But I wonder how that's going to work out, considering can't Trump pardon people? I'm wondering if Trump will pardon Vince McMahon if he is actually, held to some consequences for the federal charges. Okay, so this came out in May of this year. Janelle Grant, a former employee of the WWE who accused Vince McMahon in a January lawsuit of trafficking and abuse, has agreed to pause her case pending a federal investigation. An attorney for Grant, Ann Callis, said in a statement Thursday that Grant agreed to stay her case at the request of the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, pending a non-public investigation. We will cooperate with all appropriate next steps. Jessica Rosenberg, an attorney for McMahon, maintained that the allegations were false. We remain confident the evidence will prove Ms. Grant's allegations are false, and her complaint is nothing more than a fabricated, vindictive narrative from a disgruntled former girlfriend. Keep in mind, he has been married this whole time, so it's kind of odd that he has a former girlfriend. The Southern District of New York has declined to comment. This article just came out in October this year. Janelle Grant submits new filing in Vince McMahon lawsuit. The filing requests access to all Janelle Grant's medical records as well as any communication between Dr. Carlon Colker and Vince McMahon. In a new legal filing this morning, attorneys for Janelle Grant submitted a filing against a physician they claim medicated her against her will and a physical therapist who participated in the SA with the former WWE chairman Vince McMahon. In an email received by the Takedown on SI, which is Sports Illustrated, this morning, attorneys for Ms. Grant submitted a filing against Dr. Carlon Colker, a physician who attorneys claim treats WWE talent and employees, as well as his clinic, Peak Wellness, Inc. Ms. Grant's counsel is requesting that Dr. Colker and the clinic release all medical records related to her, as well as any communication Dr. Colker and Mr. McMahon may have. Ann Callis, Janelle Grant's counsel, released a statement in conjunction with the email. Imagine being at your most vulnerable and the doctor you are told to see only makes you feel worse. Our filing today makes clear that Dr. Colker violated ethical and medical standards when he injected unknown substances into Janelle's body and directed her to take unlabeled pills while dismissing her basic question about those drugs. Peak Wellness owes Janelle Grant answers, and the clinic's secrecy and evasion must come to an end. Now, why am I bringing all of this up? Because this is who is in Trump's orbit. And these people, Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, Matt Gaetz, who we need to talk about in just a moment, that Hegseth guy, these people are deviants. And what is going to become of our government if all of these deviants are allowed to circle and make laws and be supposedly accountable to the American public when they haven't had any consequences for their behaviors? Join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Now let's talk about Matt Gaetz. And I am just honestly surprised. I know that Trump and many of his picks are actual deviants, but why would you pick Matt Gaetz to be Attorney General? How is he going to root out any crime or criminals when he has so much surrounding him? He's finally dropped out. But I'm just baffled that they even allowed this to go this far. Of course, people were going to start poking and prodding into all of these allegations. Okay, so Gaetz withdrew his attorney general nomination and said the process was unfairly becoming a distraction to the Trump transition team. And you would think that these people on this team would have a little bit of professionalism, just a smidge, but you can tell by these picks that there's not going to be any professionalism. Matt Gaetz responded to Donald Trump's statement following his decision to withdraw his nomination for AG. In response to Trump, who said Gaetz has a wonderful future, Gaetz wrote, "Thank you, President Trump." Gaetz has repeatedly denied the SA allegations surrounding him and resigned from Congress shortly after Trump announced his nomination last week. It remains to be seen what Gaetz' political future holds now that he is no longer a representative in the House. And just a reminder, he resigned 2 days before the report was scheduled to be brought to light about what the Ethics Committee had found out about him. Matt Gaetz reportedly called Trump and J.D. Vance separately to inform them of his attorney general nomination withdrawal. In a statement on Thursday, Trump said Gaetz did not want to be a distraction, while J.D. Vance has yet to release a statement. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune says that he respects Gaetz' decision to withdraw. "I think everybody has to make a decision that's good for them and their family," Thune said, according to CNN. And for whatever reason, he decided not to pursue it, so we respect the decision. Florida Senator Rick Scott says he's disappointed about Gaetz' withdrawal. "I'm disappointed. I've known Matt since I started running for governor, and he was a smart guy, worked hard. I had a great working relationship with him." When asked about who should be nominated to the role now that Gaetz has withdrawn, Scott told CNN that the American public has completely lost trust of the federal government, and so we're going to have somebody in there that goes and creates trust. Now, somebody who is surrounded by actual allegations may not be that person. Michael Guest, who chairs the House Ethics Committee, said that Gaetz' withdrawal should end the discussion about whether the committee should continue to move forward in this matter. It really shouldn't. We should still know, especially if he was doing these things during his time in office. This should all come to light. All right, it says this comes just as a day ago, the House Ethics Committee was deadlocked regarding the release of a report examining allegations of actual misconduct against Gaetz. Lawmakers from both parties had called for the report to be released before the Senate was scheduled to vote on whether to confirm Gaetz' nomination as AG. So let's talk about that committee being deadlocked. Here is another article, and this was just yesterday, so this is a fast-moving story. It says the House Ethics Committee was deadlocked on releasing a report examining allegations of actual misconduct against Matt Gaetz, the former Republican representative and Donald Trump's choice to lead the U.S. Justice Department, after the panel met behind closed doors on Wednesday. And the thing is, if there are crimes involved, this man needs to be investigated criminally. Emerging from the meeting after roughly 2 hours, most members of the panel declined to offer details on their discussion, but the Republican chair, Michael Guest, told reporters that there was not an agreement by the committee to release the report. Susan Wild, the top Democratic representative on the Ethics Committee, told reporters that the panel did hold a vote on the matter, but there was no consensus. Wild implied that the committee, which is evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, broke along party lines and thus could not reach a decision. The panel plans to reconvene on December 5th. The panel has previously said it was investigating claims that Gaetz may have engaged in actual misconduct and or illicit drug use, shared inappropriate images or videos on the House floor, misused state identification records, converted campaign funds to personal use, and or accepted a bribe, improper gratuity, or impermissible gift. Guest told reporters before the meeting on Wednesday that he had some reservations about releasing the report when it had not yet gone through a review process. Now, let's get to some of the nitty gritty. This says Gaetz sent over $10,000 in Venmo payments to two women who testified in House probe. That's crazy to send $10,000 in Venmo. It's actually Venmo and PayPal, because obviously these electronic payments can be traced and tracked. Like, if you're going to be a criminal and do these things that are untoward, especially as a lawmaker, wouldn't you be a little bit smarter? I guess not. The House Ethics Committee obtained records including a check, a check and records of Venmo payments that appear to show then Representative Matt Gaetz paid more than $10,000 to two women who were later witnesses in an actual misconduct probes conducted by both the House and the Justice Department. The Venmo records show that between July 2017 and late January 2019, Gaetz, who was first elected in 2016, allegedly made 27 Venmo payments totaling over $10,000 to the two witnesses who were over the age of 18 at that time. The payments, which sources said were displayed during the closed-door testimony, ranged from $100 to more than $700 each. So here are the payments, and like I said, this is from 2018 to 2019, and keep in mind, he was in office in 2016. And here are the notes and the amounts. Car deductible, $300. Gift, $200. Reimbursement, over $400. Tickets, over $400. Refreshment, $400. Love you, $300. Travel, $650. Cartridges, $400. Travel, $250. All of this so far, and this is just the Venmo payments, total over $4,000. ABC News previously reported that House investigators had subpoenaed Venmo for Gaetz records and had been showing them to witnesses, asking if they were for X or drugs. The Venmo records totaling over $10,000 in payments were shown to the witnesses, who testified that some of the payments were from Gaetz and were for X, a source familiar with the investigation told ABC News. The Justice Department spent years probing actual misconduct allegations against Gaetz, as well as allegations of obstruction of justice, before informing Gaetz last year that it would not bring charges. Gaetz had long denied any wrongdoing related to the allegation investigated during the Congressional and Justice Department probes. The Justice Department received access to roughly every financial transaction Matt Gaetz ever undertook, and it came to the conclusion that he committed no crime, Trump's transition spokesperson Alex Pfeiffer said in response to ABC News reporting. These leaks are meant to undermine the mandate from the people to reform the Justice Department. The people do not want this man, and it would have come out. And it's like, do you really trust this man? Would you really trust even MAGA? MAGA, come on, y'all. Y'all wouldn't have trusted this man to root out criminals and crime. Y'all wouldn't have. Please don't play me like that. Before we get off here, we do need to talk about Matt Gaetz and his adopted son, Nestor. I put it in quotes, adopted son, because he didn't actually formally adopt him. Apparently, allegedly, Nestor's PayPal was used to pay for some of these transactions to these women. Matt Gaetz used his, and I'm going to put adopted son's PayPal account to pay women for actual favors. An attorney for the two women claimed. Two women interviewed by the House Ethics Committee about Gaetz testified that he paid them directly and repeatedly via Venmo transactions for X. Some of those payments were through the PayPal accounts of Nestor Galvin, who Gaetz has referred to as his adopted son. So I'm just putting it out there. Obviously, all of these people are going to be picked through. And it's wild to me that he would even allow himself to be this nominee, knowing that his life was going to be picked apart, especially when allegations have been circulating around him for years. All right, now, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about all of this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. I wonder if this traditional values Christian man, Pete Hegseth, is going to stay the defense secretary nominee after he gets raked through the coals as well. Police report reveals new details from SA allegations against Pete Hegseth. A California woman told police that Trump cabinet pick Pete Hegseth physically blocked her from leaving a hotel room, took her phone, and then essayed her, even though she remembered saying no a lot, a police report obtained by CNN shows. The 22-page report, released by the city attorney's office of Monterey, California, on Wednesday night in response to a public records request, lays out the competing narratives of what happened in new detail, including conflicting accounts of how intoxicated Hegseth and the woman were, and descriptions of video surveillance showing some of their movements that night. Hegseth, who President-elect Donald Trump has named as his pick for Secretary of Defense, told police that their encounter was consensual and that he had repeatedly made sure the woman was comfortable with what was going on between the two of them. 7 years after the alleged assault, questions over what happened that night could jeopardize Hegseth's nomination and seems likely to be central in his upcoming confirmation hearing. Hegseth was not charged with the crime in connection with the allegation. His attorney has acknowledged that Hegseth later entered into a settlement agreement. He paid this woman off with his accuser that included an undisclosed monetary payment and a confidentiality clause. Though Hegseth insisted the encounter was consensual, the lawyer said he was fearful that the woman was poised to make an allegation against him during the Me Too movement that might have cost him his job as a Fox News host. It wouldn't have. Those people are just as deplorable as he is. So why would that cause any issues? The police report confirms what I've said all along, that the incident was fully investigated and police found the allegations to be false, which is why no charges were filed. Timothy Parlatore, Hegseth's attorney, told CNN on Wednesday night, although the report does not say the police found the allegations to be false. In a statement, Caroline Levitt, a spokeswoman for Trump's transition team, also claimed that the police found the allegations to be false and called Hegseth a highly respected combat veteran who will honorably serve our country when he is confirmed as the next Secretary of Defense, just like he honorably served our country on the battlefield in uniform. The woman who accused Hegseth of assault broke into tears when asked about the matter by CNN reporters last week and declined to comment. According to the newly released police report, the alleged assault took place in the early morning hours of October 8, 2017, after Hegseth spoke at a convention of the California Federation of Republican Women at the Hyatt Regency Monterey Hotel and Spa the night before. An attorney for the city of Monterey, which had previously shared only cursory details about its investigation, wrote that the city was releasing a redacted version of the police report because it had previously released a copy to Hegseth in 2021. The report, which identifies the accuser as Jane Doe, summarizes police interviews with Doe, Hegseth, conference attendees, and a hotel employee, and includes description of video footage from the hotel viewed by police. The records released do not include copies of the video footage or memorandum from the Monterey County DA's office that could explain why Hegseth was never charged. The DA's office has denied public records requests for its files on the case, citing state law. The police report's description of Doe's account of the night mirrors some of the detail laid out in a memo written by a friend of Doe and delivered to the Trump transition team last week, which sparked consternation among Trump's advisors who were caught off guard by the allegation. And the crazy thing is, you would think that Hegseth would want to get in front of these allegations because he knew that they were out there and he had to know that these were going to come out. Both Doe and Hegseth, as well as several attendees interviewed by police, told the officers that the two of them went with a group to the hotel bar Knuckles after the speech and an after party in a hotel suite. There, a conference attendee told police that Hegseth had touched her knee and invited her to come to his hotel room. The attendee said she declined the invitation and gained the attention of Doe and had her become what the report describes as a crotch blocker, hoping that Doe's presence would deter Hegseth's attempt to have sex with her. That attendee later left the bar and said Doe didn't appear intoxicated when she last had contact with her. Another conference attendee told police that she saw what she described as Doe and another woman flirting with Hegseth at the bar. At the time, Doe was coherent and did not seem intoxicated to the point where she would not be able to care for her own safety. Doe told officers she believed Hegseth was acting inappropriately with other women during the conference and texted someone that he was giving off a creeper vibe, which is weird because considering he says he believes in traditional values and is a Christian and all that. Doe later told a hospital nurse that she was not sure, but believes that something may have been slipped into her drink as she cannot remember most of the night's events. And the nurse passed that on to police, the report states. The report also notes Doe said she had been drinking much more than normal that day. Officers reviewed surveillance video from the hotel timestamped about 1:15 a.m. that showed Doe and Hegseth walking together with arms locked together, leaving the bar and heading toward the hotel pool, with Doe smiling. Doe told police she remembered walking out of the bar and arguing with Hegseth by the pool, where the two argued about his treatment of women at the conference, and Hegseth told her he was a nice guy. Police also interviewed a hotel employee who responded to guest complaints about the argument around 1:30 a.m. Hegseth told the employee that he had the freedom of speech before he and Doe left. The employee remembered. The employee said that Hegseth appeared to be heavily intoxicated while Doe did not, according to the report. Doe told police that her next memory after the argument was being in a hotel room with Hegseth. She told officers that Hegseth took her phone from her hands. Then she said she tried to leave the room, but Hegseth blocked the door with his body. She said she remembers saying no a lot, but did not remember much else, according to the report. Next, she says she remembered Hegseth over her on a bed or a couch with his dog tags hovering over her face. She later told the hospital nurse that she could not remember whether or not any actual penetration occurred, but believes she was actually assaulted at that time. Doe told police that she remembered Hegseth ejaculating on her stomach before throwing a towel at her and asking if she was okay. Doe told police that she did not remember how she got back to her own hotel room, but remembered walking into her room and getting in bed. Doe's husband, who attended the conference with her, told police that he was worried when she did not come back to their hotel room earlier that night, and she didn't return until about 4 a.m. Doe told officers that the incident involving Hegseth did not dawn on her until after she returned home. She went to a hospital and reported an SA on October 12th, where she underwent a grape kit exam and gave the clothes she was wearing on that night of the alleged assault to the police. A nurse at the hospital first reported the alleged assault to authorities. Hegseth, in contrast, told police that the encounter with Doe was consensual. He said that he was buzzed that night after drinking beer and remembered going back to his hotel room with Doe. Hegseth said Doe sat down in the room and did not leave, and that he thought it was odd that she stayed in his room, according to the report. As the night progressed, Hegseth said he made sure that Doe was comfortable with what was going on between the two of them, and there was always conversation and always consensual contact. The two of them had actual intercourse, he said. Hegseth said Doe asked him if he had a condom, and he didn't. He said he asked her if that was a problem, and she said it wasn't, and he ejaculated on her body. And keep in mind, this is a traditional values Christian man. He said that. After they had X, Hegseth said he had a very clear conversation with Doe, who told him she would tell her husband she had fallen asleep on a couch in someone else's room. He told the police that she showed early signs of regret, but did not elaborate. So that is what's going on with another one of Trump's picks and the allegations surrounding him. We're going to see what comes of this pick and if he decides to stay in the race, especially since this man is married currently and has kids. So I'm wondering how those things are going on and going over with his wife at home of this traditional values Christian man. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.